Hey, Dr. Tara Boston Kimber here, and you are listening to the Culture Focused Practice Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. We are finishing up our mini series on hard conversations, and we are going to end it with a bang doing a Culture Lab episode. Woo! Where we basically do a couple of real life examples. The whole focus for this has been hard conversations. And so we really are approaching this Culture Lab with this notion of conflict or misalignment, that being kind of the question. So how do we diagnose the real issue going on? Because that diagnosis will then inform the way that we address whatever the topic of the hard conversation is. Consider this your post-conflict series cleanup. Not everything that feels like conflict actually is conflict. I want to say that again. Not every single thing that feels like conflict is conflict. Sometimes whenever you think about that tension or you notice that tension, it's really just about poor expectations, unclear structure, or misaligned values. So our agenda for the day, we're going to cover a few common misdiagnoses of conflict. Feels very important. We're going to talk about a 3-part diagnostic tool for figuring out what the issue actually is. We're going to run through 2 examples, and then I've got a couple action steps for you. So pretty quick. I think this will be a pretty quick episode. Before we go further, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. The more you do, the more people we can serve ultimately. And my hope is that this is relevant for you, and then you can benefit from continuing to listen or going back and binge listening to some previous episodes. All right. First agenda item, common misdiagnoses of conflict. Number 1, role confusion that looks like tension. I can't tell you the number of times a lack of role clarity is at the heart of tension. It's frustrating when your expectations for your role compared to somebody else's are wrong. I worked somewhere where I had a position description that wasn't even relevant. So I'm operating from an entirely different playbook than my cohort, my colleagues. And they're frustrated with me and I'm frustrated with them. And the reality is that we're not even singing the same song. We're not even looking at the same pages. We're not even in the same book. So role confusion. So one thing is not being clear, excuse me. I think there's another piece, which is where one person ends and another begins, like the intersection of roles and responsibilities. For me, that all falls under role confusion. So, take that as you will. Second common misdiagnosis of conflict is ambiguous expectations. I think on the receiving end, whenever we get the sense that they're not listening or they're going to do what they want, or why is nobody doing this thing that I'm asking them to do? It could very well be that the expectations are not clear. It's just sort of maybe arbitrary, but more importantly, I would say ambiguous. It's not clear what you expect out of somebody, or it's not clear that there's a deadline for this thing, or that there's a time frame it needs to be done in, or that you expect weekly check-ins, or that whatever it might be. It's ambiguous. And so from that, what looks like resistance might actually just be a lack of clarity around what's expected. So ambiguous expectations, not really conflict. Looks like it, but it's not. Number 3, low clarity systems. Man, I love this so much. I don't love when it happens, but I love how easy it can be to tweak and fix. Low clarity systems that create blame loops. Let me finish that full thought before I go on. So if you have 2 people who are part of a system, for example, and they work together, but the system isn't fleshed out in such a way that it's clear who does what happens? Well, person A says, I did what I was expected to do. I don't know what happened for person B, but clearly, like I did my own thing. I did my responsibilities. Person B, guess what they're saying? The exact same fucking thing, because there's not clarity on what the system is and what actually needs to take place. And most importantly, who's responsible for doing what. So low clarity systems create blame loops that looks like conflict, but it's not. It's a shitty system. It's an unfleshed out process. Last thing, common misdiagnoses of conflict, quote, conflict in quotes. A mismatch in values that becomes personal. This one is hard. This one is difficult. Ultimately, when there's a misalignment in values, there's some have to be conflict from that. If you have a value that is something about, you know, taking initiative, being a self-starter, something along those lines, and then you have a person who doesn't show up in that way, and you keep thinking that it is because you are, it's you, that you're the one, well, I'm telling them what to do. They're just not listening to me. I told them I need them to be a self-starter. They're just not listening. They're the one that, they've got whatever language you're using to explain the situation and the other person. It feels personal, like they're not listening to me, period. It's me. It might just be that they don't match with the values. It might be that they're just not a self-starter. There's nothing wrong with that, for the record. I'm not judging that. I'm saying the mismatch in values looks like it's a sort of a personal vendetta, so to speak, but it's not. It's just a mismatch in values. Happens all the time. Important to talk about. So those are 4 common misdiagnoses of conflict. There are more. And of course, they're going to have their own flavor depending on what practice you're at, but as broad categories, they're very common. Okay, so how do we figure out what's going on? And I think that's ultimately the question. There's a 3-part diagnostic tool I want to share with you, and there's 3 steps. 1 is clarity, 2 is capacity, 3 is compatibility. And this is going to feed straight into the examples that we get to. Clarity first. Do they know what's expected? Was it communicated clearly and explicitly? Is it in writing? Is there a consequence? Is there accountability in place? Clarity on what's expected, who's responsible, and what happens if it doesn't work, if it doesn't come to fruition. Clarity is number 1. Capacity. Do they have the capacity to do the thing that's expected of them? I don't mean to be an asshole, but not everybody does. I think the easiest example is if you need somebody to work 50 hours a week and they're only available for 15, they don't have capacity. There's all sorts of capacity. There's emotional, there's cognitive, there's physical capacity, there's logistical capacity, scheduling based stuff. So do they have the capacity to do the thing that's expected of them? So for me, this also includes support in order to do that thing as well. So we have to set them up in the best way that we can. But the ultimate question is, do they have the ability to grow the skills that are required for it? Do they have the bandwidth to do what is expected of them? Do they have the capacity? And then the third C in all of this, the 3-part diagnostic tool, if you didn't catch on, it's 3 C's: clarity, capacity, and compatibility. The third piece is this a values fit? Is it a personality match? Is this person in alignment with us, or is there an actual misalignment happening? I hope to God by this point, you understand how important I think that a cultural alignment is at a group practice. It is a non-negotiable. Have to have people who are bought into your system, that's like in such a way that it feels like it's an extension of them, and who align with the values, who align with the culture of the business. So the third question, that's the third component that you would get to. I always am going to look at structural things first. Do they know what's expected? Do we have something clear in place? I'm going to look at capacity next. Do they have the support, the bandwidth, what's happening in their life? Are they able to do this job? And then I'm going to look at values, highly likely in that order. It's rare that I'm going to go out of that order. So there's 2 quick examples we get through. And then, like I said, I'm going to apply this diagnostic tool for you. Number 1, intake coordinator is not returning calls in a timely manner. First and foremost, is it clarity? Do they know what's expected? Have you ever said to them, I need calls returned within this amount of time? If you're not available, this person should do it, or this other role should do it. If you call in sick, make sure this person knows here's the structure and process that you need to follow in order to get the calls returned on time. Have you been clear and explicit? And is this in writing? So is it a clarity thing? Making sure they know what they're responsible for specifically, and where they end and somebody else begins. Number 2, is it capacity? Do they have the ability to talk on the phone? I mean, my husband avoids it like the plague. He wants me to make all of his phone calls. He hates talking on the phone. So is this a person who hates phone calls and is going to avoid them as much as possible? That's a silly example, but it's legit. Some people hate talking on the phone. So is this a capacity thing? Do they have the skill set to be able to do this, return calls in a timely manner? Do they have the support in place? Do they have the tools needed to be able to do this and track what they're doing? Are the systems set up? Are the processes set up? And do they have the temperament to be able to talk through people, whether it's through really deep things that somebody might be going through, deep grief, trauma, or through angry clients? If somebody's mad and pissed off about something, do they have the ability to stay regulated and engage with that person in that type of conversation? So, capacity. Last question, again, this is intake coordinator not returning calls on time. Last question is going to be compatibility. Is it a values mismatch? Is there something about this person in particular that just doesn't really sync up with the group? And again, that sounds kind of, this isn't based on how you feel. This is based on, as objective as possible, a measurement with regard to values, and then doing it with other people who interact with this person on leadership or their direct supervisor. Ultimately, though, you want to do an assessment to figure out if this person is a values misalignment or not. It is going to be one of those three things. And capacity also can be about life circumstances at any given point in time. So it doesn't have to be capacity is, it's either 100% yes, 100% of the time, or no, never. It can be this person is generally great and their dog just died. So no, they don't have capacity. It was, their partner passed. They were robbed. Whatever life things might happen. My point is that can be tied in with capacity. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not just hardcore yes or no. It's at an even point in time, this might fluctuate a little bit. Okay, so that's one example. A second example, I think this one is actually more interesting. A provider keeps canceling clients last minute. So is just and/or rescheduling them multiple times in a month. Again, let's walk through same things. Clarity. Do they know what's expected? Do you have anything in writing about expectations for scheduling and maintaining a caseload and the schedule once it is actually on the books? Has there been anything explicitly said to this person about those expectations? Has there been any corrections that have been made to ensure that there's clarity around what's expected? Has everything been communicated clearly with regard to scheduling expectations with this provider? So, clarity. Capacity. Do they have the capacity to maintain the schedule that's required in this role? And so if you are requiring 32 client-facing hours or patient-facing hours for, let's say, 55-minute sessions or something, do they have that ability to maintain that? Or are they saying, I can only see 15 clients in a week? That's a capacity mismatch, which has nothing to do with the person. They might be a great cultural fit. They might clearly understand what's expected, but they literally don't have the capacity to do it. It's just too much for them. So capacity, again, it's going to be financial, emotional, logistical, cognitive, specific to the time, the circumstances as they are right in that moment. Something might be going on. So we need to rule out, either figure out if this is part of what's happening or rule it out. And then the last piece, of course, is the values misalignment. So the provider canceling clients, is this about cultural norms that are left unspoken? Have we not made our values explicit enough? Are they in values alignment with us or not? It's really what it comes down to. And it actually, the question, it's funny because I think sometimes we see behavior and we just focus on behavior and then we don't go further to what is behind this behavior. I see this behavior, I need it to change. Cool. Let's say you've addressed it a bunch of times with this person. So it's clear. They do have the capacity. Let's say you have a value that's around consistency and reliability. Their behavior is obviously different, but specifically, maybe they are really way more spontaneous than consistent. And they can't handle the lack of freedom to just willy-nilly change your schedule. It just doesn't work for them. It's a values misalignment. There's nothing wrong with being spontaneous or willy-nilly. I think that's my preference, honestly. But it's going to be an issue if the expectation is consistency and reliability. And the value in particular is consistency and reliability, because it's going to trickle down. It already is to their clients, but it's also going to influence all the other people around them. And by influence, I mean intersect with. It's going to have a potential negative ramifications. Okay, so those are the two examples. I have a couple action steps for you. One, just choose one situation right now that feels kind of tense. Any situation. It doesn't matter what. It can be a situation. If you use EOS, it can be a situation on your issues list. It can be something you've been sort of mentally grappling with or potentially avoiding because you don't want to deal with it yet. Take that situation. That's step one, is identify the situation. Step two, run it through clarity, capacity, compatibility. Run it through that 3-part diagnostic tool. Figure out what's actually going on. You might be surprised to know or to see that really often, if your hiring system is on point, it's way more often the case that it's a clarity thing, that you think you're being clear about something and that there are very clear expectations about requirements and, the role, but there's not. And somebody is left feeling confused and maybe unsure of how they can ask you, or a little bit overwhelmed, something like that. So choose that hard situation, that active situation right now, run it through the clarity, capacity, compatibility, series of questions, and then talk to your team using that language and reset from there. And so I'm probably potentially more transparent than I need to be, but I'm very straightforward with my people, at least very honest with my people. I think sometimes I might beat around the bush, but I'm very honest with my people. And so I would say, like, this is the way we go through this process. If there's a situation that comes up, I'm going to ask, have we clarified everything first? I'm going to reflect back on us first. Have we done everything we needed to do to be clear about this? Then I'm going to shift into, is this person at capacity? Do they have the capacity to do this thing? And then I'm going to shift into, is this cultural misalignment? So compatibility piece. Goodness, I think that's it. A couple more things, very small, very, very small, very small. One, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. You can binge listen to all the previous episodes. I asked you to do this. I'm going to ask you to do it again. Just subscribe. Number two, this shit is hard, folks. I know that it is. I live it. I love it. And I live it out. And it's hard. If you need help with the application of any of these things or you want space to talk through this stuff, join the Culture Focused Practice membership. So this is where we have the space and time to be able to really dig into your specific examples and scenarios and figure out, how do we apply the tools that we need in order to figure out what's going on, how to address it, and how to maintain whatever changes we need to. You can do that at www.tarabossenkimper.com. Work with me, Culture Focused Practice membership. You can meet twice a month live. One is for a live training, which my preference is always to take people's recommendations so we can do specific things that are relevant for you. Two is for a live Q&A. That's my favorite thing because you bring your questions in real time and we, boom, talk through them, troubleshoot them. Love it. There's also a portal with a bunch of resources, previous recordings, all the trainings, etc., as well as like digital download resources, and a free and private Facebook group. So boom, baby, that's it. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for making this awesome. If you have special requests, please, please, please make them. Otherwise, I will see you on the flippity flip. Bye.